Okay. I am black in this game. I played this game on chess.com and I thought this was an interesting game. I ended up sacking a bishop and a rook to open up white's king side. And white's king ended up being a little too exposed. And then a few moves later, white just resigned and I thought it was an interesting game to share. So, as you can see here, this is the starting position because it's a thematic tournament. The from or the from, however you pronounce it, and white starts off, which is my opponent, by taking the pawn. I play d6 because I want to get the bishop out to attack the king early, or possibly attack the king early. Yeah, and he takes, and we have a game where white fully accepts the sacrifice. Black's bishop comes out to d6, and now white has to take care of that the h4 square because black was threatening queen h4 check, which would end the game shortly if white did not take care of that. So white did take care of that. And I decided to come out with natural development. Maybe come out with knight g4 next, but for the most part, I just wanted to develop and he attacks the center, opens up the bishop and the queen, and perhaps give the king a little bit more room. But I think for the most part, it takes control of the center, opens these two pieces up, so it's a pretty good move. I decided to follow up with some natural development. It's possible to play knight g4. I think white will just play g3. That I could have perhaps sacked on h2 with knight takes h2, and then follow up with bishop takes g3. But I'm not sure if there's really enough for black there to do anything there. Because I mean, I don't have a lot of pieces out on the board yet, so I decided not to do that. And he decides to pin my knight, which is pretty natural and develops the bishop. And um, I do a similar thing. It's not pinned. This knight is not pinned because he hasn't moved the pawn, but he's gonna have to figure out where does he want to put this bishop. So like if he wants to bring it out to here to one of these squares, he's gonna have to move that pawn, that e pawn, so the knight will be pinned. But for the most part, I'm just developing. And I don't really plan on taking the knight, so unless something good really comes up, and he decides to open up the bishop there and gain a little bit of control of the d4 pawn. So that happened, and I follow up with h6. I want to put his bishop under some pressure. Either he has to retreat like to h4 or f4 or decide to trade it off. And let's see, it would be interesting. Well, if he goes to f4, I think I could just trade bishops and then maybe just trade the bishop for knight right there, because this pawn is starting to become weak. So it's probably not a good idea for white to do that when you got doubled pawns on the F file and your king is still in the center. Can't really castle too well when the king is out in the open like that. So, I mean, maybe white could have got away with that, but black decides not to do anything like that. So, just trade off the bishop. I take back. Black has 4 pieces out in the battlefield now, so that's pretty good. And white just has 1 piece. And I thought my development was pretty good so far. White does have 2 pawns in the center. I don't have any, so that's something going for him, but I do like my development. And he decides to develop, which is a good idea. Now his king can castle and get out of the center, and which is usually important for white to do with a gambit like this game here, and or at least I think anyway. And I decided to unpin my knight by just simply castling. I could have castled queenside possibly, but I think it was kind of a toss-up. Maybe I could have castled queenside, because if white castles kingside, maybe it could turn out to be a race on who can open who can open up their kingside attack better, or yeah, something like that, you know, where you gotta go open up the king. But I castled this way, white castles this way, and I decided to move my queen. He can move the knight at any moment, maybe, because that would expose my queen. It would expose his queen too. But yeah, I don't think he was threatening to move the knight right away. But like, I'm pretty sure white was gonna like develop this knight, and then yeah, maybe think about some kind of attack on my queen or something like that, or maybe white would just move the queen or something like that. So yeah, I decided to play it safe, and yeah, since I was attacking this e-pawn, white decides to defend like this. I thought this was interesting. My opponent chose this way. Yeah, I thought maybe white was gonna play queen e1 or maybe queen d2, but instead he plays queen c1, and yeah, I thought maybe he'll come to here or here, but he did not. So he decides to protect this pawn this way, and I decide I'm just gonna put the question to his other bishop, and it's gonna be interesting because he could double my pawns, but I'm gonna have the bishop pair pointing towards his king. So I thought I am fine with the trade of bishop for knight, and he does that. So okay, I have double pawns, and I have the bishop pair, so I'm still down a pawn as well, but I wasn't too worried because I think I could put pressure on e3. It looks like a weak point to go after, and maybe even b2, because now this b file is open. I might just throw a rook here at some point, and maybe a rook here, and start attacking some pawns here. So I thought I was doing all right here. And white plays knight a3. Um, it brings the knight out at least, and he's probably thinking about like knight c4, because he wants to get rid of this bishop. I think it's a good plan. He could have went. Let's see. Well, he can't go here because it interferes, right? If he goes here, the queen is blocked from protecting that pawn. So, okay, yeah, he wants to go here and come here to c4. He probably would do that if his e pawn was not hanging. But then again, if that queen was back on e1 instead of c1, he probably would have played that instead. So, yeah, it looks like that's what he wants to do there. He could probably play knight here, but yeah, there's no easy way for white to eliminate that bishop, because he can't go here, he can't go here to attack the bishop. So white plays there to attack the bishop, or white plays here to potentially come here. So I decided that I want to challenge the center. I mean, I do see him possibly playing knight c4, and I don't see a whole lot I could do, because this bishop was like, it was trapped pretty much, and it doesn't have anywhere good to go. Because I mean, like, if I was to move my queen, he plays knight c4, and if I tried to save it, try to save my bishop, then I thought maybe I was getting a little too passive. So yeah, I saw him possibly playing knight c4, and